7:15. The effects of the BP oil disaster are certainly still being felt here in Louisiana.
It's not so much the oil as it is the moratorium that was put in place afterward, and Congressman Steve Scalise has proposed some steps to try and counter that, and he joins us this morning to talk about it. Good morning, Steve. Thanks
Good
for
morning.
being
Good
with
to be
us.
with y'all.
We're calling it a permitorium. It's not a moratorium so much. It's just a slow-moving permit process that's hurting our oil industry.
Right. The biggest, I think, devastation to South Louisiana right now is the effect of this permitorium, where people can't go back to work exploring safely for energy. And we're talking about companies that had nothing to do with the Deepwater Horizon disaster, many of which are literally hanging on by a vine. We've already seen a few companies go bankrupt. We've lost over 13,000 jobs in South Louisiana because of this permitorium. And what we've been saying to the administration is our people just want to go back to work exploring for energy here in America.
Set of bills coming up that you support earlier this week, and then you've got your own legislation you'll be proposing, the Gas Act, later this week, correct?
That's right. We're going to be taking a lot of action in the House to address the problem of rising gas prices. And frankly, this is a supply and demand problem. You know, you still got some people in Washington saying, oh, you know, if we open up more areas for energy here in America, that doesn't affect price. Well, who really thinks that supply doesn't affect the price when the demand is so high? And the president's running around saying we want to shut off more areas in America, but the president goes to Brazil and says they want to drill there. They ask the Saudis to produce more oil. That's only leading to higher gas prices. OPEC would love this kind of policy because they're guaranteed being the only one to supply energy. Yet in America, there are more and more areas that the federal government has said you can't even go and explore, even though there are billions of barrels of known oil there.
What would the bill do to actually lift this permitorium?
Well, one of the things that we're going to be doing in the House this week is taking up a bill that would, in essence, put a shot clock on the amount of time that the administration has. Right now, they're holding on to permits. They're not approving them. They're slow walking them through the process, and people can't even get answers to basic questions to say, look, we want to go and explore for energy. We have the new technologies. We have enhanced safety mechanisms, but we can't even get an answer from this administration on whether or not we can go in an area where we know there's oil down there. So we want to say, look, let's follow all the safety rules, but you can't just, in essence, run out the shot clock by not giving somebody a permit, even though they're doing everything right and playing by all the rules.
That's first up on your agenda this week, and then a little bit later you'll be introducing that Grow American Supply Act, the Gas Act. Walk us through what the Gas Act would do.
Sure. What the Gas Act will do, and it's similar to a bill I filed in the last Congress, is it would allow for more areas of the Outer Continental Shelf to be opened up for drilling. Right now, the federal government's closed off many areas where we know there are reserves of oil. It also deals, of course, with the timing and the ability to go out and drill, but it also says the states that want to contribute to America's energy supply ought to be able to share in the revenues, because revenue sharing is a big problem. We don't get to share in those revenues right now, and we've said in Louisiana, if we share those revenues, it probably means billions of dollars to the state, but we would use that money for coastal restoration. So it's real money for coastal restoration. It would provide thousands of jobs in America. It would reduce our dependence on Middle Eastern oil, and it would bring billions more into the federal treasury as well as to the state treasuries.
Congressman, a lot of back and forth over the U.S. relationship with Pakistan after the attack on bin Laden. What are your thoughts on that relationship right now? Are we spending too much money to try and foster good relations with Pakistan? Do you believe they may have harbored the world's most wanted criminal?
I think it's hard for anybody to imagine that this compound sitting right there in a military city was sitting there for 5 or 6 years without the government knowing about it. I think Pakistan still has some very tough questions to answer. I surely haven't heard the answers to those questions that are adequate for me, and I think many, not only in Congress but in the White House. I think the president has some questions as well for the Pakistani government. Now, they can do some things to show goodwill by giving us access to the people that were in that compound that were left behind, including some of bin Laden's wives, including some of the intelligence that was still left behind, like parts of that helicopter that the Americans had to leave behind when our Navy SEALs went in.
Are you hearing if that will happen, or any type of timeline for the questions you and President Obama have to be answered?
I do think we'll get those answers very shortly. You know, some of the open-ended questions about what they really knew about whether bin Laden was in that compound, I think, you know, we can all speculate. It's hard for me to be shown how they didn't know about it, because even if they didn't know about it, then it really raises even more questions for things going on under their nose. But at the same time, it is a delicate situation. There are nuclear weapons in Pakistan, and they have helped us in some other areas in the war on terror. But in this particular case, especially with bin Laden, they have some serious questions to answer.
And real quick, Congressman, the Corps could be making a decision today about opening the Morganza. Any concerns on your part about the official handling of this flood?
Well, you know, I think that the Corps has shown in this case they built really good structures to protect the Mississippi River from flooding our region. We're seeing other states, whether it's Tennessee, Missouri, other places along the river where they don't have the same kind of level of protection from the Mississippi, and it's so important that they be managed properly. I think they've been moving forward. We need to get those gates open. I was out at the river this weekend, and it's as high as I've ever seen it.
Congressman Steve Scalise, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Great being with y'all.
All right, sir.